I woke to the sound of the front door opening, soft, slow, cautious. My eyes flicked to the glowing digits on the nightstand clock. 4:43 a.m. Ashley wasn't supposed to be home until 9. She had said she'd drive back early from Nashville after the conference wrapped up, maybe grab breakfast on the road. But now she was here, just before dawn, slipping into our house like a thief. I sat up in bed, every sense alert. The bedroom was still dark, save for the pale light filtering through the window blinds. I heard her heels on the hardwood floor, slow steps, like she was trying not to wake me or trying to rehearse the next part in her head. When she stepped into the hallway, I saw her silhouette, that same tight black cocktail dress she'd worn when she left yesterday morning, only now it was wrinkled, clinging to her unevenly. Her hair was tousled in a way that didn't look intentional, and her makeup was smeared, smudged eyeliner trailing beneath her eyes, red lipstick faded and uneven. But it was the smell that hit me hardest. I'd know Ashley's perfume anywhere, light, floral, understated. This wasn't that. This was heavy, unfamiliar, a masculine cologne I couldn't place, cut through with stale cigarette smoke and a sharp trace of whiskey or something darker. She smelled like a bar at closing time, and not just one she'd walked through. Like she'd lived in it for hours. In her hand was a clear plastic dessert box, one of those cheap ones from a gas station. A lone slice of cheesecake inside, slightly smashed on one side. She lifted it up like it was a peace offering. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice too high-pitched, too rehearsed. "Surprise! I decided to head home early. Missed you." She flashed a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thought I'd bring you something sweet," she added, wiggling the box like a prize. "You love cheesecake, right?" I stared at her. I hadn't said a word yet. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was trying to process the 100 questions piling up behind my teeth. "I finally managed. You said the conference ended tonight." "It did," she said quickly, brushing past me toward the kitchen. "But we finished up early. I didn't want to hang around waiting for checkout. Figured I'd just drive through the night." She didn't look at me as she spoke. She placed the cheesecake on the counter, kicked off her heels, and started rummaging for a fork like nothing was strange. Like she hadn't just reappeared with club lighting still clinging to her skin. I followed her into the kitchen, leaning on the doorframe. "You drove all night?" I asked slowly. "No hotel?" "I mean, I was gonna," she said, her back still to me, but I couldn't sleep. "So I just drove. It's not a big deal." She was talking fast, too fast. Every line came out like it had been practiced in a mirror. Like she'd had hours to figure out which version of the truth might stick. "And you didn't text me," I said, watching her. Ashley turned around, cheesecake slice now balanced in one hand, a fork in the other. "I didn't want to wake you," she said lightly. "I figured you'd be asleep anyway." My stomach turned. Ashley always texted. Always. Whether she was running late or ahead of schedule, she let me know. She once called me just to say her Uber driver was taking a weird route to a conference downtown. This wasn't normal. She set the fork down. "You're mad," she said, eyes narrowing slightly. "I can feel it. Look, I'm sorry if I scared you, but can we not make this a thing? I just came home early. That's all." I didn't answer. I just nodded slowly, then turned back toward the bedroom, heart pounding in my ears. I lay there for a long time, eyes wide open in the dark, listening to the soft clatter of her putting dishes away, then the creak of her walking down the hall. A few minutes later, I heard the bathroom door click shut. That's when I got up. I moved quietly, like I didn't want the house to know what I was doing. I walked down the hall and stood outside the bathroom door. The shower was running now. I waited a moment, then turned and went into the guest bathroom instead. That's where I found it. A towel, white, clean, still damp from the dryer. But there it was. A single, short blonde hair. Clearly not mine. Ashley's hair was a deep reddish brown and long. We hadn't had any guests. None of our friends matched that description. And it didn't fall off some new blanket or get stuck from the laundry. No, this was fresh. I held the towel in my hand, staring at the strand like it could explain itself. There was a feeling I can't quite describe that settled in my chest, some mix of panic and realization. It wasn't confirmation yet, but it was a spark, a beginning. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And I had just seen the first corner of it. I put the towel back carefully, exactly as I found it. Then I walked back to bed and lay down again, facing the ceiling, my mind racing. I listened as the shower shut off. I heard her feet on the tiles. The faint scrape of a bottle cap. A drawer opening. Then silence. She returned to the bedroom 10 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, hair wet, cheeks pink like she'd scrubbed away more than just makeup. She slid into bed beside me and whispered, "I'm sorry again. I really didn't mean to worry you." I pretended to be half asleep. Just mumbled, It's okay. She pressed a kiss to my shoulder. But I didn't fall asleep for the rest of the night. My mind kept circling that strand of hair, the gas station cheesecake, the new scent on her skin, and the words she'd used when she walked in. So cheerful, so eager, like a stage actor trying too hard in a small role. And I realized something that night as the hours passed and dawn crept through the windows. She had returned home, yes, but not as the woman I knew. She came back with stories I hadn't asked for. She came back with makeup that didn't belong to my memories. She came back with the scent of deceit. The next morning, Ashley acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, humming to herself like she always did, flipping pancakes in her robe as if her 4:43 a.m. arrival and the gas station cheesecake had never occurred. But I couldn't unsee what I saw or unfeel the knots twisting in my stomach. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug I wasn't drinking from, watching her through the steam. She caught me staring and gave a tight smile. "Everything okay?" she asked, like she hadn't already rehearsed the line. "Yeah." I lied. "Just tired." She nodded, pouring syrup over her plate and launching into a story about her coworker Kristen losing her luggage. I tried to follow along, to react like a normal husband, but all I could think about was the blonde hair, the smell on her skin, the way her dress looked slept in. It didn't start with the hair, or the late arrival. It started weeks ago, slowly, quietly, like fog rolling in over a familiar road. Ashley had been going out more often. At first, it made sense: book club, brunches, a friend's art show in the city. I didn't question it because I trusted her. But then it became routine. Weekend catch-ups. Girls' nights she never used to care about. Vague plans with friends I'd never met or even heard of. When I asked who she was meeting, she'd toss out names like Jules or Kay. Names that changed, never seemed to overlap, and didn't exist in any text thread I ever saw. She had also started taking longer to get ready. New clothes showed up in the closet, tags still on. Shoes she'd never worn around me. She said she bought them on clearance, joked about retail therapy. I believed her because I wanted to. Then there was the perfume. One morning, a couple of weeks back, she left for lunch with coworkers, wearing a cologne-like scent that immediately caught me off guard. It was sharp, musky, unfamiliar. I asked her if it was new, and she laughed and said it came from a sample she got in the mail. "Not really my thing," she'd added, waving it off. "I just didn't want to waste it." But that same scent came back again a few days later. And again after that. She was also suddenly protective of her phone. She used to leave it on the counter when she cooked, on the coffee table while we watched TV. Now it was always face down, always on silent. And every time a notification lit up, she'd swipe it away like it burned. I noticed she set a new passcode on her laptop, too. I only knew because one night, she'd left it on the kitchen island while grabbing a drink, and the screen dimmed. When I went to tap it awake for her, it prompted a password. Before, it had just unlocked. When she came back, she saw me standing near it and immediately reached for it, saying, "Oh, I was just logging off." Her tone was clipped, and the way she turned the screen away told me everything. At night, she'd sit on the couch, scrolling with one hand while half-watching shows with me. If I so much as leaned her way or glanced down, she'd tilt the screen or hit the lock button. Once, I caught her laughing quietly while typing. When I asked what was so funny, she looked up like she'd forgotten I was there and said, "Oh, just a dumb meme." I asked her to show me. She said it was gone already. Even our conversations changed. Ashley used to tell me everything about work drama, clients, even weird dreams. Lately, everything was fine, nothing much, or just tired. I told myself it was stress. Work deadlines, maybe something she didn't want to burden me with. But there was something brittle in her voice, like she was building a wall between us. One smile at a time. Still, I tried to shake it off. I told myself not to spiral. Maybe she really was busy. Maybe she really had new friends from that charity group she joined. Maybe I was overthinking. But then she stopped touching me. Not in a dramatic, purposeful way, but gradually, subtly. No more casual hugs from behind while I cooked. No more kisses just because. The bed felt colder at night, her back always turned, her body always just out of reach. And when I tried to initiate something, she'd respond with a quick excuse: headache, exhaustion, early meeting. The first few times I believed her. But even that started to feel routine, like lines from a play she was tired of performing. There was one night, I remember it clearly, when she came home late from work. Her lipstick was still perfect. Her blouse had a tiny wrinkle at the shoulder, like someone had grabbed her. I noticed it because Ashley's clothes were always impeccable. She said traffic was awful. I said nothing. When she went to shower, I opened the laundry hamper and found her blouse folded in on itself, like she'd taken it off carefully. No smell of her usual perfume, just the faint, unmistakable trace of that same foreign cologne I'd smelled before. It was then that everything clicked. All those harmless patterns weren't harmless. They were signs, subtle ones, easily dismissed if I wanted to believe in the version of Ashley I knew. But now they lined up like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, the image forming in sickening clarity. And now, with the blonde hair, the 4 a.m. arrival, and the scent of someone else still clinging to her, I couldn't explain them away anymore. I spent most of that day in silence, going through the motions. Ashley went about her usual routine, chatting about errands and offering to pick up takeout. I nodded, gave short answers, watched her like a stranger in my own home. I didn't know what I was waiting for in admission, maybe. A slip-up. But she was careful now. Too careful. That night, while she was brushing her teeth, I stood outside the bathroom again. I watched her through the cracked door, the way she checked her phone between swipes of the toothbrush, the way she tilted the screen away from the mirror. I felt like a ghost haunting my own marriage. She caught me looking and smiled. "Hey," she said through the phone. "You okay?" I wanted to ask everything right then. Where were you really last night? Who's the cologne from? Whose hair was on our towel? But I didn't. I just said, yeah. Just tired. That lie tasted like metal in my mouth. I went to bed before her and pretended to sleep. When she crawled in next to me, I felt the mattress shift, heard the quiet buzz of her phone again. She turned, facing away. And I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, realizing that whatever this was, it wasn't just in my head anymore. The pieces were real. And they were starting to form something I couldn't ignore. The next morning, I stayed home from work. Called in sick, said it was a stomach bug. Ashley kissed my cheek on her way out, her scent lingering in the air like punctuation. She said she'd be back late, a team dinner she had to attend. I watched her pull out of the driveway, my coffee still untouched. The moment her car disappeared, I stood up and went straight to my desk. I had no real plan. Just a storm of questions I needed to answer. And I wasn't waiting for some dramatic confession or a chance encounter. If there was truth to be found, I was going to dig it out myself. I started with our shared mobile account. It wasn't hard. Ashley and I shared billing for convenience. With a few clicks, I accessed the call and text logs. I didn't expect much, maybe a few late-night texts or calls I hadn't noticed. But then I saw it. A number. Local. Repeated. Over and over. Morning. Afternoon. Midnight. The same number dozens of times across the last 3 weeks. Sometimes short calls, sometimes hour-long ones. The texts were even more telling, bursts of messages in the middle of the night, short gaps between each. The number wasn't saved in her contacts. But I knew it wasn't random. I copied it, pasted it into a search bar. Reverse lookup led me to a fitness website, Alex Griffin Personal Training, Nashville Elite. I clicked. There he was. Tan, blonde, square-jawed. The kind of guy who wore fitted polo shirts and smiled with every tooth. He had a dozen glowing reviews, mostly from women, and a polished bio about his years of training high-profile clients. And then I saw it buried in his Instagram highlights. A party 2 weekends ago. The caption read, Client Appreciation Night. And there, in the second slide, was Ashley, wearing the same black cocktail dress she came home in. Her arm was around someone. I couldn't see his face, but judging by the blonde hair and the build, I didn't need to. Another photo, posted by a different attendee, showed her from the side, drink in hand, laughing at something Alex said. There were candles. Wine glasses. Dim lighting. Not a work event. Not a casual hangout. And definitely not what she told me she was doing that night. My mouth went dry. I clicked through more posts, scanning every detail. There was a group *T, Alex dead center, Ashley pressed against his side. His hand was low on her back. She wasn't pulling away. Then I remembered something. When I helped her pack for that trip, she asked me to grab her overnight bag from the closet. Inside, her phone buzzed. She jumped, snatched it, said it was just Jules. I believed her. But now I knew. I pulled up her hotel rewards account. We had a shared login. I checked recent bookings. There it was. A 3-night stay under Brooke Andrews, a name she'd used before when booking spa packages for her friends. I clicked the receipt. Same dates as the party. Same city. And the hotel? Just 5 blocks from Alex's gym. Everything snapped into place. The late returns. The gas station cheesecake. The hair on the towel. The new perfume. The locked laptop. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. She created a second version of herself, built just far enough from our world to keep the threads from crossing. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. All I could hear was the hum of the refrigerator and the echo of blood rushing in my ears. I saved the photos, screenshot ts, call logs, everything. Printed them out one by one. Neat. Methodical. Like I was assembling evidence for a trial I already knew the outcome to. And then I sat down on the edge of the bed and looked around. This was our room. Our space. Our life. But none of it felt real anymore. I opened the top drawer of her nightstand. Inside was a framed photo of us from 3 summers ago, laughing on a beach, sunscreen on our noses. Behind it was a folded note I'd written her after our anniversary dinner last year. She kept it. I used to think that meant something. Now it just felt like another prop in a story I no longer believed. I walked to her closet and opened the door. Stared at her rows of dresses, the heels stacked on shelves, the bags lined up like trophies. I scanned the floor. One pair of sneakers was newer than the others, bright white with a gym tag still on it. She never wore them around me. I opened the side zipper of one bag. A small bottle of men's cologne was inside. Not a sample. Full size. I put it back gently. That evening she texted at 6:17 p.m. Dinner's running long, don't wait up, love you. Love you. I stared at the words like they were written in a foreign language. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and began backing everything up, documents, photos, phone records. I created a duplicate folder and labeled it for attorney. I didn't know if I was angry or numb. Maybe both. I just knew I couldn't unsee it. Couldn't unknow it. And from this moment on, I couldn't unlive it either. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't one bad night or a lapse in judgment. This was planned. Deliberate. And worst of all, hidden behind smiles and early morning kisses like nothing had changed. Ashley came home just after midnight. I heard her heels click softly across the floor, her keys gently dropped in the bowl. She walked into the bedroom without turning on the light, slid out of her dress, and slipped under the covers next to me. I kept my back turned. She whispered, "You awake?" I said nothing. She placed her hand on my shoulder. It felt cold. "Long night," she said softly. "Missed you." I let out a breath, slow and even. Not because I was asleep, but because I couldn't trust myself to speak. She curled up beside me and closed her eyes. And I lay there, wide awake, staring at the darkness. Knowing the truth. And knowing that from here on out everything would be different. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That might have been the hardest choice of my life, sitting across from her at dinner, sipping coffee while she scrolled through her phone, smiling like nothing was wrong. Every instinct screamed at me to say something, to throw the printed pages in her face, to yell and demand answers. But I didn't. Because now this wasn't about reaction. It was about control. I needed an exit. Clean, swift, final. And I needed it to be mine. The morning after I uncovered everything, I called a lawyer. His name was Keith Danner, a referral from a friend who went through something similar 2 years ago. I didn't tell him everything on the phone. Just said I needed to talk urgently. He made room that afternoon. I showed up with a manila folder in hand filled with evidence. He flipped through each page carefully, nodding every so often, his expression unreadable. When he was done, he looked up. "You have a strong case," he said. "Infidelity, hidden assets if you dig, deceptive behavior. We can move quietly. I recommend we prepare the papers and serve her at home unless you'd rather do it remotely." I shook my head. I don't want confrontation. I want to be gone before she knows. He nodded again. "That's doable. We can file for dissolution citing fault. If she contests it, we'll take it to court. But with this much documentation, she won't win. How much do you want to walk away with?" "All of it," I said. "The house, my investments, the savings we built." "She'll probably expect half." She gave that up the moment she gave herself to someone else. He didn't argue. We began drawing up the papers. I signed document after document while the paralegal scanned files, making digital backups. Keith leaned back in his chair and said, "It's going to be a hard few weeks. Be ready." I nodded. I already was. Back home, Ashley was in the living room watching a documentary. She looked up as I walked in. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just work stuff," I said. She smiled faintly. "Want to order Thai tonight?" "Sure." I sat down on the opposite end of the couch, watched the screen while my mind stayed busy elsewhere. Over the next 3 days, I made copies of everything. I collected digital files, bank statements, receipts, emails she forgot to delete. I even took photos of the perfume bottle in her bag, the shoes she never wore around me, the cologne tucked in her closet. Each night, while she slept, I packed my essentials, documents, clothes, a backup drive, passwords, a list of service providers. I created a new email account, updated my security questions, disconnected my phone from her shared apps. Then I booked a furnished apartment across town. Short-term lease, fully stocked, quiet location. I paid the deposit under my middle name. The lease started Monday. On Saturday afternoon, while Ashley was out getting her nails done, I went to the apartment and brought over the first box. By Sunday, most of my life had already moved. I left just enough behind to keep up appearances. The final step came late Sunday night. While Ashley was in the shower, I took the duplicate laptop I had bought, an older model, clean slate, and uploaded everything onto it. I arranged the folders neatly on the desktop. One labeled README. Inside were the photos, call logs, hotel receipts, and *TS. I placed the laptop into her work tote, zipped it shut, and left it leaning against the kitchen island where she always grabbed it on her way out. Then I sat at the table, staring at the clock. 11:02 p.m. The silence of the house crept into me. It didn't feel like home anymore, just a museum filled with props. Ashley came out a few minutes later wearing one of my t-shirts like she always did. She gave me a sleepy smile, kissed my cheek. "You coming to bed?" "In a bit." She nodded and disappeared down the hall. That was the last time I saw her. I left the next morning before sunrise. I didn't pack anything extra. Didn't write a note. I just slipped out of the house with one bag, my keys, and a quiet kind of finality. I turned off my phone once I got in the car. The apartment was cold when I arrived. Empty. A strange kind of quiet, no footsteps overhead, no dishwasher hum, no perfume lingering in the sheets. Just silence. And that's exactly what I wanted. Around noon, I checked my backup phone. One voicemail. For missed calls. A text. "Ashley, hey, did you leave your laptop in my bag? There's a file in here I don't understand." 10 minutes later, another one. "Ashley, what is this?" Then nothing. I pictured her sitting in the kitchen, scrolling through the evidence, realizing I was already gone. Realizing there was nothing left to explain, no argument left to win. The silence said everything. That evening, I went for a walk around the block. The air was cooler in this part of town. No familiar faces. No memories clinging to street signs. Just clean pavement and the sound of my own steps. I stopped at a small diner on the corner and sat in a booth by the window. The waitress poured me coffee without asking. "Rough day," she said, offering a kind smile. I looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You could say that." And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not because it was over yet, but because I had taken the first step toward ending it on my terms. Ashley found the laptop within an hour of getting to work. I knew that because the messages started coming at 9:07 a.m. First, just a text. "Ashley, Travis. What is this? Call me." Then 2 missed calls. Then a voicemail I didn't listen to. Then more texts, longer ones, increasingly frantic, fragmented. "Ashley, this isn't what you think." "Ashley, can we talk? Please don't do this like this." "Ashley, it's complicated but I can explain." "Ashley, I never wanted to hurt you." By noon, she wasn't texting anymore, she was emailing. The tone shifted, less panic, more strategy. Subject, please read. "Travis? I don't even know where to begin. I just opened that laptop and saw everything, and I'm still shaking. I know you're hurt. I know you feel betrayed. But please, let's not do this through silence. We've built so much together. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. What you saw. It's not what it looks like. I didn't plan for any of this. I made mistakes. But it wasn't about not loving you. It never was. I got caught up in something I didn't understand how to stop. Please, just give me a chance to talk. Face to face." She attached a photo of us, an old one from a beach trip 5 years ago. We were laughing, sunburned, sand in our hair. I stared at it for a moment before deleting the entire email. By evening, she had switched tactics again. Her social media lit up with a photo of her standing by a window looking reflective. The caption read, "Starting over doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering what you're worth." I almost laughed. Later that night, a mutual friend texted me, "Hey, is everything okay with you and Ashley? She's been posting some cryptic stuff." I didn't reply, but I scrolled through the comments, dozens of them. "You got this, girl. Let the pain fuel the glow up. Proud of you for taking care of you." A few even hinted at betrayal, not hers, but mine. She deserves better than whatever she just left. It was subtle, but it was there, her attempt to rewrite the narrative before anyone asked too many questions. I knew Ashley. She hated being seen as the villain. Even now, she wanted to maintain control. She wanted the breakup to look mutual, empowering, poetic. But she had miscalculated something important. She wasn't the only one with an audience. 3 days later, someone from her old job messaged me. A former coworker who had moved on to a different firm. I saw that post Ashley made, and I just wanted to say, if you're the one she's been lying to, I'm sorry. A bunch of us knew something was off. She brought the guy to an office party once, said he was her cousin. Nobody bought it. Another message came an hour later from her cousin, actually. Travis, I don't know all the details, but Mom told me Ashley's parents are freaking out. They saw the pictures from that Nashville thing. Her dad is livid. That was the moment it began to unravel for her, not just privately but publicly. The same image I had found her in the black dress beside Alex Griffin had started circulating. Someone reposted it to a local gossip thread asking who the guy was. Another person replied, "That's Ashley Brooks, right? I thought she was married." More comments followed. And Ashley, in all her carefully staged poise, hadn't accounted for digital footprints. She hadn't imagined people comparing timestamps, doing reverse image searches, or asking questions she couldn't neatly answer. That weekend, I went for a walk near the park. I hadn't told many people what happened, I didn't need to. But word was getting around, slowly and surely. A neighbor stopped me by the sidewalk. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm sorry, man. Didn't expect that from her. If you ever need anything." I thanked him, nodded, and kept walking. Ashley showed up at my apartment 3 days later. She knocked 3 times, then stood there for 5 minutes, waiting. I watched her from the other side of the peephole, a hair tied up, no makeup, sweatshirt 2 sizes too big. She looked exhausted, defeated. She didn't call out. She didn't cry. She just stood there. And when she realized I wasn't coming to the door, she pulled something from her pocket, a folded envelope, and slid it under the door before leaving. I waited another 10 minutes before picking it up. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. 4 pages long. The first paragraph was full of pain. "Travis, I miss you. I miss our mornings. I miss hearing you laugh in the kitchen. I miss everything that felt like home. I'm sorry. I don't even know where to begin." The second was blame. "I felt alone even when we were together. I tried to talk to you so many times, but it felt like I was screaming into a void. That's not an excuse, it's just how it felt." The third was bargaining. "I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off everyone else. I'll move out of the city. I just want to talk. Please, just talk." And the fourth was defeat. "If I never hear from you again, I understand. But I'll always love you even if I don't deserve to say that." I folded the letter and put it in the back of my drawer. Not to reread. Just to remind myself later that even in regret, she couldn't take full responsibility. The next day, she posted a selfie on Instagram, subtly smiling, holding a coffee mug that said "Rebuilding." The caption read, "Growth is uncomfortable. But so is staying stuck." I didn't need to respond. The silence said enough. Her facade held up for about a week. But then the tone started to crack. A private message arrived from one of her high school friends. Someone she hadn't talked to in years. "Hey, random, I know we don't know each other, but Ashley just messaged me out of nowhere, saying she's been through a betrayal. Said she was moving out of the city. I figured I'd check in with you. If she's putting stuff out there that's untrue, people should know." I thanked her. Told her not to worry. Ashley wasn't moving out of the city. She was being pushed out of circles that used to orbit her. The fitness coach Alex had taken down his social media within a week. The gym removed his profile, and someone on Reddit claimed they'd canceled their membership after recognizing him from the party photos. Ashley tried to reach out again the following Monday. Another text. Just 1 sentence. "Ashley, please. Just let me explain in person." I didn't reply. By then, I had changed my number. The old version of me, the one that would have answered, comforted, tried to fix things, was gone. And all that was left was quiet. Exactly what she used to dread the most. The divorce process moved faster than I expected. Ashley didn't contest a thing. Maybe she knew she didn't have the leverage anymore. Maybe she was too exhausted to fight. Or maybe, deep down, she understood that dragging this out wouldn't bring her redemption, only more exposure. My lawyer filed everything under marital misconduct. The evidence I'd collected, *TS, photos, call logs, painted a clear picture. There was no ambiguity. She signed the documents within days of being served. I retained the house. My investments. The savings we'd built together over the years. Ashley didn't push for more than the basics. Her lawyer made a few polite requests about personal belongings, but that was it. No long hearings. No drawn-out negotiations. Just a quiet, clinical dismantling of a life we once promised would last forever. On the day the final papers were signed, I sat alone in the courthouse lobby watching couples argue and cry around me. I didn't cry. I didn't speak much. I just signed my name where it was needed and walked out. As I passed through the revolving doors, the wind outside hit me like a reset button. There was no dramatic relief, no joy, but there was something close to freedom. A few days later, I heard that Alex Griffin had been fired from his gym. Apparently, once clients started asking questions, management looked into things. It didn't take long to uncover the unprofessional conduct. One trainer. Multiple women. Ashley wasn't the first and probably not the last. His reputation crumbled in less than a week. Ashley, meanwhile, tried reaching out one last time. A message sent from a new number. If you ever want to talk, just talk, I'm here. I still think about you every day. I didn't respond. I deleted the message without reading the rest. Some things don't deserve a reply. After the papers were finalized, I left town. Temporarily at first. I didn't know how long I'd be gone. I just knew I couldn't stay in the house that still smelled faintly of her perfume. I needed air. Distance. Space to figure out who I was without her shadow. I drove northwest and landed in Montana. Rented a small lakeside cabin outside Bozeman. It wasn't fancy, just one bedroom, a fireplace, and a porch that faced the water. The kind of place where silence didn't feel empty. Where mornings smelled like pine and evenings looked like paintings. At first, I just slept. Then I read. Memoirs, mostly stories about survival, loss, reinvention. I cooked over an open flame. I sketched in an old notebook I found in the cabin drawer. I rediscovered small things, how good food tastes when no one's judging your portions, how grounding a walk can be when the only voice you hear is the wind. I worked a little. Took on freelance projects. Declined the rest. It was the first time in years I said no to anything without feeling guilty. One afternoon, I wandered into a quiet cafe in Bozeman. A warm place with soft music and books lining the windowsills. That's where I met Nora. She was pouring tea behind the counter when I walked in. Gentle voice. Eyes that looked like they'd seen a storm or two but never hardened. She asked what I was reading and smiled when I told her. We talked more after that. Slowly. Casually. No pressure. It wasn't love at first sight. It was easier than that, like breathing after holding your breath too long. We started meeting on Tuesdays. Then Saturdays. Then whenever. No expectations. No labels. Just two people learning to exist again. One evening we sat on the porch of the cabin, watching the sun dip behind the trees. The sky turned every shade of gold and rose, and the lake shimmered like glass. Nora reached for my hand. I let her. I didn't know where we were headed. I didn't care. Because for the first time in a long time, I felt something that had eluded me for months. Peace. And a quiet, steady certainty. My life finally belonged to me again.